And in terms of our guest, so US Bank is the fifth largest bank in the United States of America with a proven track record in innovation. Our fintech vertical actually started in 2015, and US Bank was first cab off the rank. And they've been an incredible partner since day one. Through their innovation champions, Doug Nelson and David Ness, who are respectively the SVP and VP of Innovation and Research Development, they've been highly involved in the ecosystem, embracing new technologies, partnering with fintechs, and indeed their fellow corporate partners. We view them as exemplars on the platform. They've got amazing internal alignments and best practices for advancing the innovation agenda and really contributing in a big way to the open innovation ecosystem. For instance, sharing best practices and learnings with their corporate partners for working with startups, helping other partners get the most from the platform, and even sharing tech trends and other startups who they're working with corporate partners. Irv Henderson, in particular, is the Chief Digital Officer for Small Business at US Bank. He's got responsibility for driving the One US Bank digital strategy for small business customers. And of course, given the crisis at the moment, what he's doing is more relevant than ever. Indeed, prior to joining the company, he was the CEO and co-founder of Talek, a software firm that was focused on providing small business customers with the tools and insights to run their businesses. And previously, he served as the VP of Mobile and Connected TV at Yahoo, VP of Products and Mobile Payments at OboPay, Director of Mobile Products at InfoSpace Mobile. He holds 8 US patents in mobile payments and an MBA in finance from Cornell and a BA in economics and physics at the Whitler College. It's an absolute pleasure to have you with us this morning. Thanks for being here.
Thank you, Simon.
Great. I'm really excited for this conversation. So without further ado, I'll hand it over to Saeed and yourself to kick off. Thanks very much.
Thank you.
Pleasure to have you here, Irv, with us. You know, I remember I came to Palo Alto, specifically University Avenue, in 1978 from Pennsylvania to visit my brother who was attending Menlo College. And quite frankly, I never went back to pick up my clothes, which was very little at that time. I was going to school at Washington and Jefferson College. But I was wondering what brought you to California and when did you come here?
Yeah, so I came to the Bay Area to work at Yahoo in 2004. In 2004, Yahoo was at the very beginning of what would become really a significant investment in mobile technology and mobile experiences. And in 2004, I remember when I joined Yahoo, believe it or not, Yahoo had less than 100,000 mobile users. And that experience went from 100,000 in 3 years, from 2004 to 2007, to well over 100 million customers or users accessing through mobile phones. And that was transformative. And one of the key experiences there and one of the key insights we had was core communications around instant messaging and mail would make it into mainstream on mobile phones. And we did a partnerships with the Samsung, LG, RIM, Research in Motion. Remember that? Motorola. All those, yeah, that's right. And back then, actually, I remember sitting in a meeting, Saeed, and this was probably 2006. I was in South Korea. It was in actually probably Singapore, and we were a meeting of about 40 people. There were probably 2 people in that room of 40 people focused on hardware, who were focused on a software perspective, from a software perspective, and I was one of 2. And that was really, for me, the mental model there was this was going to be, we were at the very beginning of this flip in terms of how software would become the core engine to run mobile devices. So yeah, 2004, I started my journey here in the Valley. And yeah, it's been an exciting time to be here, obviously.
Yes, you know, if I could tell you, I have had some parallel journey with you, we were very lucky to invest early in PayPal. I think it was less than 5 people when Peter Thiel joined us in our little office building in Palo Alto. And then I was lucky enough to invest in Lending Club, which is peer-to-peer lending, and most recently in N26 out of Germany. You know, quite frankly, digital banking or new tools that people use for personal banking, as well as I believe your personal specialization is how you service small businesses. Can you tell me a little bit how US Bank works to implement new technology to serve small businesses, with the emphasis of this COVID-19, which quite frankly accelerates all the potential innovation, because maybe people will not have face-to-face meeting like the meeting we are having right now.
Like the one we're having right now. Saeed, there's so much in what you just said to unpack. I'm going to start with the customer, which is the small business and, you know, small business owner and what they're going through. So the insight that I had at Talik, in starting Talik, is I was very interested in building a software platform to help business owners run their businesses. Business owners are not often, they're not data scientists or statisticians or CPAs. They start their business out of a passion or interest. And with that passion or interest, if they're successful, 2 years in, 50% of them are failing at the business. If they're successful, they've gone from a passion to being kind of engulfed around with all the operational issues related to payroll, right? Accounting, right? Marketing, all these things that they were never really trained in. And so one of the key tectonic shifts here is small business owners are increasingly running their business through software, because it gives them insight in near real time. And this has never been more possible, right? Platforms, iOS or Android, on various form factors with easy access to data storage fundamentally changes the way the average person runs their business. So that's a massive insight. From a bank's perspective, and part of the reason we are now in the bank, banks recognize that as business owners are changing their behavior and the way they run their businesses, increasingly the bank is being disintermediated in terms of its core relationship to the business owner. Business owners are running their business through software tools and increasingly accessing the financial tools that they need, lending, credit cards, to other sources, and not even going into the bank. And so I think the fact that Talik is a part of US Bank is an acknowledgement that the bank, in terms of its relevance and its, you know, kind of staying in the core operating kind of mode for the business owner, needs to be closer to what's happening. I think of what we do at Talik as providing the business owners tools that give them insights into run their business. And I think about the bank services as being that critical catalyst to help the business owner run their business seamlessly. So you can imagine, and this is the journey we're on at US Bank, you can imagine as the business owners running their business, they can easily check their account balance, understand their cash flow, right? 50% of small business owners sit on less than 27 days of cash flow. Understanding where cash is, right? Forecasting that cash. So I think that's the kind of the core thesis around why, from a software perspective, we're inside the bank, is the bank is reimagining their relationship with the business owner. So to COVID, yes, I mean, I think what's happening right now in terms of the impact on small business will be transformative in the way that the bank relates to small business owners, and it will accelerate the tools that business owners use to run their business. It just makes a lot of sense for them to have more control over what's happening. So what are some of the things that we're doing at the bank and I've done specifically in terms of our execution? So of course, we've done the things inside Talik and our partnership, kind of our relationship with the customer, we've made our software free through September. New customers coming in to the bank using our software either have it for free and or for existing customers who raise their hand, who indicate they're under business stress. Again, we make the software for free. I'm fresh off working on the Paycheck Protection Program. That's been a massive initiative inside the bank. Our response to this was we built a product in basically 3 weeks. I personally, along with the team, spent 3 hours a day designing some fundamental side, right? Like kind of defining, designing, right? Developing and delivering. We were doing, 3 hours a day in design, nightly handoff to engineering with drops overnight into production, massive pace of product development and iterative design processes. So yeah, this is happening in a bank, right? So the banks need to respond to COVID, obviously, and the use of digital tools and software to engage the customer has been instrumental in kind of being able to be there for the customer and their needs.
Yeah, if I can mention to you, I am, mid-sized company, about 280 people in California. We were budgeting to grow 30% this year, like we did last year. And then suddenly this COVID-19 hits. And again, I consider myself a mature businessman. I just can't imagine what a store owner is going through. May it be a small restaurant or small retail store, or quite frankly, small service industry like haircut and other activity. Are you, what is your crystal ball says? How can we get these type of businesses back on their feet as soon as possible? And specifically as the 5th largest bank in the US, I mean, this 2.5 month payroll relief, it's really helpful, for the people who received the money before the money ran out.
Yeah.
What do you think we can do together as far as the startups are concerned, as far as US Bank is concerned, to help these smaller businesses?
Yeah. Saeed, again, so much to unpack in there. No, I mean, very, very relevant. Over the last 3 weeks, I've personally been in conversations with small business owners. We've reached out as a company, reached out to many small business owners. There's some compelling stories of entrepreneurs being creative, right? We have multiple customers. Certainly a trend that we see is the local cafe turning into a grocery store, right? These are just entrepreneurs being creative, Saeed, because they know they have the wholesale side of it. They're having eggs and milk being delivered into their store, and they're expanding that to be able to serve the local neighborhood. I have one customer. There's one customer in Gig Harbor, Washington, with multiple locations, a whiskey manufacturing that's completely converted into hand sanitizer manufacturing. So you see that, yeah, powerful. You see that level of creativity in the way that small businesses are turning, kind of changing their, the way they deliver their business. But I think, so one of the things that we're doing inside the bank right now is we're beginning to think through, there are the obvious tactical things we need to do, which is giving our customers relief. Whatever gives them more cash flow, right? Those are things that we can do and are doing. One of the things that I'm beginning to focus on, though, I'm trying to reimagine what it would be like as businesses begin to turn to, to do business again, right? As we go through this gradual process, and it'll probably be uneven in the absence of a vaccine, in the absence of proper, testing, and maybe in the absence of effective tracing. So, imagine we're going to have some starts and stops in the process. What we're thinking about is business owners may shift. For example, if you take the retail space, retail could be reimagined in terms of smaller footprint and real estate. right? If you think about kind of retail, particularly around unique, unique builds, whether it's fashion or some, the makers building things at home and looking for, smaller warehouses to showcase their products on social media or distribution. So reimagining distribution from a retail perspective. Given the levels of unemployment, you can also imagine that a number of people become quite creative in the kinds of services they build. And for restaurants, I mean, there's the obvious order ahead experience, but you can imagine a significant expansion in virtual kitchens, right? You can imagine hyper-local experiences where people who are passionate, remember, entrepreneurs and business owners start from a passion. You can imagine hyper-local experiences where business owners who are into the restaurant space maybe convert those spaces into less footprint on real estate, but maybe they service more a local flavor, and they become more distributed, specialized list of people who are engaging in supporting that business owner. I'm imagining a world after we're no longer running out of flour and sugar, right? Where we're no longer baking and cooking at home, and we return to some sense of normalcy. But my meta observations on these things is that I don't see the new normal. I don't see normal being the old normal. Particularly if and there are some lessons you can learn if you look at what's happening in Wuhan province right now in terms of their return to normal, what's happening in Singapore and Southeast Asia, South Korea. I think you already have some of the 6-9 month kind of indications of how things could unfold. But I do think we're looking at retail a little bit differently, retail and restaurants. I think particularly for the small business owner, I do see a different way of operating. And so from the bank's perspective, we are even now beginning to think through things like accelerating online ordering investments, right? Accelerating booking. The virtual booking will become more important. Thinking about contactless payment in a more meaningful way, in a more distributed way. But these are all a reimagining of how small business owners are relating to their clients on a go-forward basis.
Yeah, and I believe, omni-channel has been used, and for a long time, but I believe you ordering online and picking up at the door will be very, very big part of retail. And, just to share some news with you, last Thursday, I had a fireside chat with Mayor Park of Seoul, Korea. Even though he has less than 2 or 3 cases per day in a 10 million people city, he also shows what you said, that the old normal we will never go back to. And we just have to get used to a new normal, new way of shopping, new way of eating in the restaurant at a little bit of a social distance. And, I just hope, because I'm a true optimist, I just hope, like in China, I have information from our offices that the restaurants are back up to 70% of their business. Retail and shopping center are back at around 50-55. And I just hope that will be the same thing that we will do here in US, and hopefully save our small businesses. If I can ask you, like Square or PayPal, PayPal recently purchased one of our portfolio companies, Honey, and it was mostly for the data, and I believe they had 30 to 40 million regular shoppers online, and I believe that's what was the value of Honey to PayPal. Where do you see this payment crossing to other services? Do you find yourself working with Square or PayPal or competing with them?
Yeah, I think a couple of things to unpack there as well. I think I'll start with the customer need. Small businesses, and I alluded to this at the top of it, I see an acceleration of the use of software tools to help small business owners run their business. And through, even primitive methods of applying data science, you can do some compelling things for small business owners, right? I mean, small business owners care about cash flow. Cash flow forecasting is an essential product. Helping small business understand just ones and zeros, just understand what's working, what's not, what has highest margins, what are the lowest margins, how their competitors are doing in a specific zip code. That kind of level of analysis has been widely understood in big boxes for 30 years.
Many years.
We're basically long-tailing now this kind of insight. So I think in terms of tools, whether it's US Bank and our capabilities or Square or PayPal, giving small business owners software tools to help them run their business through insights is a powerful journey for them. It's very valuable, and given all the stress around them right now, will become increasingly valuable. The future state of how the bank works with other software solutions, I think it'll be even more collaborative, right? We're down a journey right now where non-banking capabilities, right? The average small business runs on maybe about 5-6 core platform capabilities. You need some form of in-person acceptance, some form of order ahead e-commerce acceptance. You care about payroll management for labor management. You care about supply management. You care about integrated, accounting software, and then you care about some kind of CRM to manage your customers. Those 6 capabilities require that even in the way we deliver our solution as a bank, that we are partnering with non-bank solutions, if you will, to deliver that capability, because that's essential. I mean, the average business owner in Talek logs in 40 times a day.
Wow.
40 times a day, Saeed. And this is not, I'm not talking about the employees. The reason this matters is because they're truly running their business through the software. And that level of engagement, as you deliver, if you think about this conversation accelerated, if you deliver data insights, a compelling reason why the business owner comes back to looking is to figure out how to run their business. They probably should make that particular payment earlier for cash flow reasons, or they probably shouldn't, or they can forecast their cash. So I think this more automated future, if you will, where the business owner is looking at the software tools they're using for insights, it's going to be mission critical for running the business. And from a bank's perspective, we see this. We see providing tools to run the business as really a critical part of how we remain engaged with that customer. I imagine a future of proactively pre-qualifying a customer. We know enough of the data, and so we should be able to say, Saeed, you are pre-qualified for 100,000 working capital. We should be able to go a step further and make that entire working capital experience completely elastic. In January, we offer you 100,000. In October, we offer you 50,000. Why? Because your business is cyclical, and we know your cash flow forecasting, but that should be transparent to you. Those are easy. I mean, that's the future we imagine, where the software tools are working in concert with the bank capabilities to bring a real compelling experience to the business owner. And by the way, all that I'm describing right now become even more critical in the future, which is right now. I think COVID-19 has brought business owners to this place where efficiency around the way they run their business become real critical for cash preservation. And I see an acceleration of these capabilities.
Before I open it up to questions from audience, I wanted to ask you that, unfortunately, the airline industry and the hotel industry, I believe, have suffered the most and will have a longer recovery than maybe following with non-essential retail. We work very closely with number of department store, but I was wondering, in a macro sense, how do you feel the banking world or the financial world will weather through this crazy time we are living?
Yeah, no, I think I would add to the airline industry and the hotel industry, the entertainment industry, concerts, all of that is it's gonna be a very long haul back to a new normal. Because I also think in the context of hotel and the airline industry, I think business travel, I think we now realize that, and this is going to be more mainstream beyond the tech companies that have been doing it for years, that this notion of kind of having this hybrid model of in-person and virtual actually is quite efficient and works. And so it changes the way even you hire. You don't need to be in Palo Alto. You could be anywhere. And I think that's an acceleration in terms of the labor pool and the way we think about geography and where, you know, talent comes from. So that's a whole other conversation, Saeed. But yeah, I think, so what was the second part of that question? So the first part is kind of
how financial services will go through this, banks.
I think a fundamental difference. Now, you know, listen, none of us could have predicted, you know, COVID-19 and the impact here, but a fundamental difference between now and 2008 is that the banks have very strong balance sheets, right? And, you know, as a response to 2008, where the banks were weak, the banks are in a strong position to be able to do things like forbearance, which is happening, you know, and looking at credit card payments and delaying them, and, you know, so looking at offering more and more capabilities to allow small business owners in the end to preserve their cash. And I expect that to continue, that the banks continue to remain in a strong position. I think that will benefit. I think the challenge for all of us in the medium term is we don't know how big this hole is. We keep, we're right now getting ready for a second tranche of the Paycheck Protection Program, another $300 billion. The $350 billion went very quickly. You know, it's clearly a very strong need for the funds for small business. So I think right now what we're trying to figure out collectively, how big is this hole that that COVID-19 has created. So.
Yes, you know, again, I always like to leave on a positive note, and somehow my colleagues in China, Singapore, and Japan, who I would say they are about 60 days ahead of us, by far they are not through the COVID-19 challenge, but they are much, much more optimistic, and they have seen some light at the end of this tunnel. So with that, maybe Simon, I can open it up for questions from the audience. And again, it's great having you here with us. I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, this has been fantastic, and we've had a lot of really good questions. You noted a whole bunch of like technologies and tech trends that are even more relevant right at the minute. We've got a bunch of questions about how, like, tactically you're working with your small business customers to get those technologies implemented. And a second question around, like, how are you, like, testing quickly in the field to accelerate the velocity of adoption of some of these technologies?
Yeah, so what I described in terms of our pivot, we've done a COVID-19 pivot immediately on our product roadmap, you know, accelerating our online ordering ahead, accelerating our e-commerce experiences, accelerating our booking capabilities, because we think more and more as you begin to long tail into taking experience from physical locations to maybe even virtual warehouses or homes, post-COVID, that those capabilities are going to be more important. We're looking at, accelerating contactless and how that works in terms of getting it inexpensively into the hands of small business owners. So those are tactical things that we're looking at. We're beginning to think through, listen, the reality is, given the level of unemployment, we're thinking there's going to be a surge in entrepreneurship. We think that there's going to be a reimagination of what retail looks like, and I've alluded to some of that already. You know, a lot of it using social media and potential people inventing things out of their homes or out of virtual warehouses. So we're beginning to ideate around what are capabilities we need to build in the next 6 months to begin to do that. And how do we do it? We go really fast, right? The PPP program, as I mentioned, I mean, we built that in 3 basically 3 weeks, 3 hours of design a day, an hour and a half in the morning, an hour and a half in the evenings with drops overnight. And, you know, when you're going that fast, you need to rotate out teams, right? Because it's the intensity is really high.
Yeah.
And candidly, you know, we're all at home right now. We're also quite mindful that getting a better balance between work and home is even more acute right now. But yeah, I mean, we're thinking, spending a lot of time thinking about what do we need to do over the next 3, 6, 9 months.
Yeah, that's great. I think we're all discovering we need some new norms around virtual that we never learned before. Hey, look, final question, and there's been a lot of really good questions here. So if we didn't get to your question to the audience, please feel free to email us, and we'll get back to that. But just to land the plane, perhaps you could talk about what has been the biggest leadership challenge that you've sort of faced going through this, and have there been any unexpected learnings or insights that you've noticed as you and your team have confronted the present moment?
Do I only have to choose one? Can I give a couple? I'll start with people and talent. I think one of the things that I'm personally working through right now, we've talked a lot about kind of the inventions and the creations and adjusting. Work-life balance. I have found being at home that all of us are working a lot harder. And now, I mean, obviously, I've spent a tremendous amount of time around how the bank responds to COVID-19, and that brings its own intensity. But I think work-life balance is certainly beginning to, I mean, this is a long journey. People are at home. People have never been more, you know, it's never been easier to reach people, and people are, you know, the teams that I'm working with are pushing pretty hard. So that's one. Two, I would say, I started Talik out of a real passion to provide small business owners with tools. And I think that's really come into focus for me. A lot of what we've talked about here in terms of using tools and giving insights have never been more real to me. It's never been more important. And I do believe that for good reasons, we're going to have an acceleration of these capabilities for small business owners. Small business owners a year, 2 years from now, in the main, will run a lot more efficiently because of this period in accelerating tools. And candidly, I mean, again, I've mentioned, you know, the small business owner is passionate about what they are creating, not so much the operational pieces. And I'm excited about being able to take those operational pieces and set them aside. One of the things that I've always focused on is I think about small business owners wanting to get home to their families. And I've always focused from a product development perspective on what are the tools that we can give them to make that happen. Like, go home. Don't spend time balancing your books. That's insane. Like, don't spend time trying to chase down why your cash store isn't balancing. Eventually figure out it's happening on a Wednesday at 2 o'clock and it's somebody that's taking the money out of the business. Those moments bring me delight, where we can make their lives simpler and get them home.
And that's fantastic. And I see that sort of similar passion and spirit in your language, Saeed, around helping entrepreneurs succeed, you know, and removing barriers and providing support. So look, we're going to hop into a whole suite of really interesting startup pitches, presentations in a minute. But before we do, just want to thank you both for spending time with us. Thanks very much, Saeed, and thanks to you, Irv, as well. This was absolutely stimulating. So terrific.
Great having
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.